with a buddy who was coming out here for college, grad school. Um, yeah, $3,000, no plan, no job, just a degree, totally blind to how hard it was going to be to get into my industry. So I ended up doing a bunch of bullshit jobs, which I'm super thankful for now. I learned a ton from them.
Oh, for sure.
But found that the normal career path was not going to be for me.
Okay.
Just not for me. I was depressed. I felt screwed over because I was focusing on education and skills, and that's not what advances you in a typical corporate career. Um, so I decided to lean back on my creative side, and like I said, the van life thing was happening, and I had friends that were doing this. Um, so I said, I'm going to be a sports photographer, an action sports photographer. And I've got a degree in marketing, so I'm going to go shoot that stuff and create commercials, now social media,
Right.
um, for those companies. So I found the cheapest van that I trusted, that I felt was clean
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
to live in. And this is where it gets funny. 1986 red shag rug conversion van with three different colors of stripes down
My
the
mom had
side.
one like that. I learned how to drive in a van like that. They used to
Hell
call it the
yeah.
A-Team van. The
Yeah,
A-Team van.
exactly. Exactly. 1986 Dodge B150
Oh
Custom. It
my
had
God.
swivel seats that, real armchair, like a lazy boy. I did zero renovations whatsoever. I
Oh my
pulled out the
God.
middle passenger seat and put in an IKEA cabinet with like the folding fabric drawers. I bolted that to the ground,
Okay.
to the floor, and then the back bench folded down, and that was my bed. I put a
Okay.
memory foam mattress on it. I hobbled together some curtains to give me some privacy, and that was it. I ended up putting
Great.
in a two burner propane stove, and not too long before I sold it, I ended up putting in a small solar panel and battery because I was tired of
Smart.
charging my laptop at the coffee shops. But that was it. And so I lived in that van for a year and a half. I started trying to make a living as a photographer, videographer, but that's really hard.
Oh,
And
hard.
I've severely underestimated that. But luckily, I did have that degree in marketing, and I was of the generation to, be the first on social media and understand how this
Yeah.
can really be leveraged as a business asset. So I
Yeah.
actually quickly got work managing social
Okay.
media for the
Okay.
same type of companies. So I was still in the space. I could still be living in the van traveling. I was able to make content for those companies, but that was not by any means my main bread and butter.
Yeah.
It probably only afforded me bread and butter, to be
Yeah. Right.
honest. But I got to do it, and that's kind of where I was able to start my career, not really fully knowing where it was going to get me. So after a year and a half, I got really busy with the marketing stuff, and I was doing a lot of things, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And living in the van wasn't conducive anymore. I was staying in San Diego. I was like parking in the same spot every night. I had a girlfriend at the time, so we ended up getting an apartment. And I was like, but now I've got this van that I've kitted out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
doing anything with it because I'm living at home, working at home. And I'm too busy to go off grid and go camping when I want. So this was around the time that Turo and
Oh
Airbnb were
yeah.
really starting to blow up too. So this was a joke. I was laughing with myself. I was like, I'm gonna put the van up for rent. Let's see what happens. I put it up for like $85, thinking if I made enough to pay for my insurance, I was gonna be stoked.
For sure. Yeah.
And I'm really good at underestimating
Yeah.
things. Right? 2 weeks later, I had a number of bookings that I did zero marketing for, other than, right, I knew how to write copy,
Yeah.
sales
Yeah.
copy. So I wrote a
Sure.
decent description. I put as little effort into as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had some good photos from when I was living in it and doing content, right? And that was all I needed to do. I mean, that's the good thing about working with platforms like this is that they do the lead generation for you. They bring the
Sure.
people to you as long as you've got a good listing, it works out. So yeah, I started making money, but it was an older van, so a lot of my profits was going back into renovations on the van. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, let's lean into this.
Yeah.
So I sold that one for a profit because I had done a lot of upgrades to it,
Awesome.
and
Okay.
I may have sold it with the rental listing. I forget.
Hey, even
Um,
better. Like seriously, whatever you can do, like to, yeah,
yeah.
that's what's up.
Well, put a pin in that. We'll talk about that later.
Uh-oh. Okay. All right.
It's a good one. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
And yeah, so I sold that one for a profit and then put that money into building one from scratch. So this time I bought an empty cargo van, just like the white panel van, completely
Yeah.
empty, and I built it from scratch. A lot of the stuff I learned from YouTube, but I grew up around tools. Like I mentioned, my buddy's
Right.
Ross,
Yeah.
his parents had the company, and did some work for them when I was a teenager. And both of my parents were really handy, so we always did work on our house ourselves. Um, so I built that and put it up for rent in December 2019.
Oh my. Best time, best time literally ever in the last 100 years to put something like that up, right?
Yep. So the first few months are going great. And I had some friends of mine rent it, and started getting bookings through the rental platform,
Yeah.
which is outdoorsy, by the way. I still use it, highly recommend it.
Okay.
And I even had an Australian couple book it for something like 36 days or something like that.
What? That
It was gonna
is
be
awesome.
it was gonna be like a $2,500 profit or something like that, and all I had to do was clean the van and teach them how to use it, right?
Come on. Okay.
And then COVID happened, and every rental of everything everywhere canceled, and everyone was freaking out,
Yeah.
for all the reasons, right?
Right.
But fast forward, we learned what COVID was and how to deal with it, and realized that what we now call bubble travel, right? Staying within
Yes.
your social bubble and then kind of keeping away from other people, that was the safest and best thing to do. So now the van life industry took
Perfect.
way off, right? From then, that van was rented every single weekend for
I'm
the
sure.
rest of 2020.
That's
So that's when
amazing.
I started taking those profits and building a small rental fleet. And then, yeah, we had four vehicles. My girlfriend at the time and we had three vans, and then she had a small Jeep with a rooftop tent.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Um, and that's when renters started picking up what I was doing. They're like, "Wait, you built the vans, and like this is your side hustle while you work at
Yeah.
home, and
Yeah.
we're essentially paying for you to have all these toys.
Right.
Build me a van and teach me how to do that."
Okay.
So when my agency client moved on, I was like, okay. I
Let's
had
go.
pretty much just secured like a $75,000 build on my landlord's best friend's brand new 4x4 Sprinter.
Okay. Okay.
And I think
Nice.
the most I had taken in at the agency was like 60K in a year.
Oh, is that right?
And I was like, let's go. I was like, I think I'm in the van business now.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Now, how much of that is profit?
Well, so not a lot. That's what I learned really quickly is that there's a big difference between building vans by yourself for fun in your garage
Yes.
versus building vans for a business with
Yes.
overhead and staff. And one of
100%.
the biggest lessons that I learned is to never compete on price because there's
Yep.
usually a reason why things are priced the way they are. And
Yes.
if you think that you can do just as good of a job as everyone else for half the price, either your competitors are just making a ton of profit,
Right.
which is usually not the case.
Right.
More likely, there's a reason why it's priced that way.
Right.
and you should probably pay attention to that and not think that you're smarter than everyone else.
So that's
So,
a good lesson learned, right?
yeah, and it probably took me a little too long to learn it.
Did you
So
make any money at all on like the $75,000 ones? Just
maybe,
barely break even, maybe, like kept yourself afloat?
maybe,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, I am an entrepreneur and maybe a little bit of a masochist, so I didn't really care because any money that I had that was left over just went right back into the business.
Mm-hmm.
I was all in, and there was nothing you were gonna do to stop me on that. So from the van days, which when I lived in my first van, that was pretty much a social experiment for me to find out what my baseline was because I knew that I was going to live the entrepreneur's life and that meant a lot of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to find my bare minimum, my MVP, uh, I was like, let me just get rid of everything and move into the smallest space possible to find out what it is that I absolutely need, and then everything else I've got is going into the business, whatever the business is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've operated it. I don't necessarily recommend that for everyone,
Yeah, yeah.
because it is a hard lifestyle. But
Mm-hmm.
I chose it, and I could choose to do something different, but I still wake up preferring to do it this way.
Look, I can't say that I wouldn't do exactly the same thing, except I already have 4 kids and a husband
Yeah,
and a mortgage, right? And the 2 car payments. So I had to do entrepreneurship a completely different way. But
absolutely. And that's why I say this, doing it this way is not for everyone. There's definitely people out there who are lucky enough to be very fluid like that. I don't
Mhm.
have anyone. I recently adopted a lovely pit bull dog who's sleeping next to me very comfortably. But it's just us, so I do have that luxury to be able to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, that's super nice. Okay, so now you've been in the van business for how long?
We're in our fourth year. Wow,
Okay.
we're actually entering
Wow.
Q2 year four. Yeah, which is wild.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is wild. Time is going by so fast.
So fast.
So
We have
like
a funny
what point
saying
are you
around
at?
here.
Yeah.
We have a funny saying that time flies when you're building vans.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my gosh. So now you have employees. Do you have like a location? Where do you do this building?
Yeah, so when I got that Sprinter that I was talking about from my landlord's friend, that did not fit in my garage, my little apartment garage. So I ended up moving to a co-working fabrication
Oh, cool.
facility,
Oh, wait a
which,
minute. This exists. This is going to be a good thing to teach to the folks out there who want to build something.
yes.
Tell us about the co-working. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think most of us know what a co-working facility is, office space, where you can just kind of like rent a cubicle, so to speak.
Yeah.
For the corporate world, that's common for startup. It's commonly referred to as a maker space or a maker place,
Okay.
where it's usually some form of warehouse. They own, maintain all of the machines,